Hey, everybody. Episode 3, the school meeting. What I want to point out here is Miss Katie Clark. She is the rock star in the experience that I had with the Phoenix Unified School District. So please pay attention to her. She takes ownership of the shortfalls that happened, and she was just amazing throughout the whole process. So I really have nothing bad to say. What I want you guys to remember as you watch me go through this process, what I really want you to pay attention to is I'm not the loudest guy in the room. Let people talk, right? We got to hear each other in order to communicate. So throughout the process, notice that I'm not calling anybody an a-hole. I'm not doing any of that kind of nonsense. When you go to affect change, you have to come with a rational solution, with intellect, and always remember the long game. People remember the bad parts, they don't remember the good parts. So enjoy this. It is a little bit lengthy, but a little bit insight. Episode 4, what's coming up in episode 4? Some of the media coverage that happened during this process. But that's in episode 4, so stay tuned. And here we go. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Be good humans, people.
You can go ahead and sit there next to Sergeant Wilson if you'd like.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come in. I know you know
Yeah.
Dr. Mitch Connick
Good to see you again.
Officer Decker and
Nice to
Sergeant
meet you.
Wilson. I know he's wrapping up. Gosh, whoever sat in this seat was much taller than I was. So we'll wait. Okay, so thank you for coming in. Kind of 2 goals for the meeting. One is that we obviously want to share with you the debrief, but also the second thing we want to do is see what other questions that you had. I know that over the course of the past 2 weeks now, I've worked very closely with district. I've worked very closely with Sergeant Wilson. And I know he had called you from my office on one of the first days that we were together. And I don't know if you ever got a chance to touch base with him.
I don't think so.
So I thought we would have that opportunity now as well. But just to review those things that went well and those things that are our areas for improvement.
Awesome.
Along the way, okay?
Okay.
Okay, and so along the way, if you have any questions, let me know.
Will do.
In terms of areas that we reviewed and felt went well, part of our review process is to do what's called an after action report, and I went through that. We did agree as a group that we followed the threat assessment protocol provided by the district. That starting on the 21st, when I met with Sergeant Wilson and was in contact with Dr. Von Echten, that we worked very closely with the district and with law enforcement to get updates along the way. And that when we did come together and meet and how we were moving forward, every decision, and I'm sure you could agree, was a group decision. So when we talk about that threat assessment protocol, and I reviewed this with you on Friday, our school psychologist, our school counselor, Officer Decker was off site when everything happened, but he's part of that protocol as well, and he reviewed things with us. We all went through that well together and came up with, through district support, the conclusions that we did. I do think the follow-up to post after the fact was better. Would you agree? My contact with you last week and things like
Yes.
that were better. As far as areas for improvement that we talked about were one, and I shared this with you as well, yes, parents should have been contacted directly as soon as we had an opportunity to review the report and start everything on our end. I know that the focus was initially on the student who made the threat, and I'm very comfortable that was the focus, but there should have also been that focus for the victims in there as well, and that should have been provided quickly, and that yes, we could have reached out to district for support quicker that afternoon. So those are the areas that we reviewed. I know probably Sergeant Wilson maybe wants to speak a little bit about your main concern was with the Arizona Revised Statute regarding our contact of law enforcement. Am I right to assume that?
In my opinion, the way that statute reads, Mr. Von Acton should have sought guidance from the district. And
Are you talking about Dr. Comer?
Or Dr. Comer, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I apologize. Dr. Comer should have reached out and sought guidance due to the seriousness of the threat. It wasn't just simple bullying or, somebody threatened to beat somebody up on the playground. This was a threat of death against 3 children, along with statements that he was going to come back and shoot up the school. So, the way that I read that statute, and wanted to raise my concerns for that, and I think I did very, very clearly, that we'll leave it to the attorneys and the Arizona Department of Education investigators to see if that was followed. But in my opinion, as a parent, there should have been some guidance sought. Even if it was a call to the district that said, hey, I interviewed the student, I think he was talking nonsense. I don't think it's anything, but it's a serious situation. We just had 17 kids killed. We had over 18 shootings at the time in the schools. We had, at that time, 3 kids arrested in the Phoenix or in the state of Arizona that week. Parents are freaked out, kids are freaked out, and Dr. Comer made a decision completely on his own not to do anything. And I think as it's laid out in the statute, that he should have sought that guidance.
Right, and I agree with you. I think you're correct. The timing of the situation, everything happened. There should have been a heightened awareness. I completely understand where you're coming from, and I know that was something that we discussed as well. I think one of the things that I pride myself on and everything is that we obviously want to do everything in the best interest of our kids, and we want to take the time to investigate things very, very well. What makes it difficult is that we're not trained investigators like detectives are from Phoenix Police Department, and we do the best that we can with collaboration from district and law enforcement, and it's an area that we continue to work on as we move forward.
Times are changing. And I get that.
And you change with the times, absolutely.
Right.
And we appreciate this kind of input. And I think that the point you're making regarding statute is a critical piece. I only recently attended a training regarding threat assessment and when you determine, the role of the school in working with law enforcement. And as recently as just in this training, it was one of the school determining the level of threat, using protocols to determine that nature and making a decision as to when to call. And that's not an excuse for the actions taken that afternoon. I think there could have been a more thorough investigation immediately to maybe make a better decision regarding that, seeking some guidance. But I think that what you pointed out is a piece that we need to work with law enforcement regarding that, as to what's the appropriate protocols we could provide our administrators so that we know what's the threshold, when do we do that. And in this environment, perhaps that threshold has been lowered.
I, as a parent,
we have a great partnership
so.
with the police in working on those matters.
Yeah, and let me be clear with you guys. I have zero issues with your performance with regards to the situation. Unfortunately, you weren't here when it happened, so I put you at a little disadvantage, and I understand and respect that. But my communication with Detective Thompson has been good, and I think he took the appropriate actions that were necessary. So, with regards to the Phoenix Police Department, I have zero issues with your performance in this matter.
Well, we appreciate that, and I just want to let you know and to reassure you that we do work hand in hand with the school district, with the Paradise Valley School District as a whole and everything. I think everyone agrees that our main concern is the safety of the kids, and working with the district for the last 15 years as a school resource officer, supervisor, and everything, we've come a long way in improving our communication and improving our relationship with the district and handling these situations. Yes, the Florida incident heightened everyone's awareness of it, and I can tell you just from a citywide perspective and everything, things have changed. We've always done reports, we've always documented these things and everything, but we haven't always detained kids based on just verbal threats and everything. We usually require more information and something like that. So things are changing. We are doing more. Obviously, with that kid, he was interviewed and everything and detained that evening. So things are getting better. I think from working with the schools here, we debriefed the situation. We identified several areas that we did well with, and several areas that we could improve on and everything. So I think our goal, and from my perspective on it too, is what is it that you're looking for that we can provide you with to help you, I'm not sure where you tell it, to understand where we're coming from, what we're doing, to make you more comfortable with your kid coming to the school and being a parent community. Because I'll be quite honest with you, I don't tell everyone, I have kids that go to this community, to this district too.
Mm-hmm.
I have three of my kids go to this district. I take a lot of pride in this district and working with this district and working with the safety in the schools and everything. So when something like this happens, it's not only a school issue that they're looking at. I look at it too as a personal issue, what we can do better and everything. Because I obviously want a safe environment for all the kids, because my three kids are involved in the same community.
Right.
So if there's something that we can do, or some suggestions you have for us that we can do better or different, I would love to hear. If there's something that we can implement, I'm more than willing to implement it. There's always good input from the community as to how we can better communicate, how we can better address these situations. And it's sometimes more complicated than what people realize when you're dealing with juveniles.
I do understand.
There's a lot of, you probably understand, there's a lot of things that can and cannot be said or out there, but we are doing them behind the scenes and everything, but because we're dealing with juveniles,
right?
You understand how that works. So is there anything that you think that any suggestions that you'd like to see us implement or work with?
And I have given that some thought. You know, I've kind of done an after action review of myself and where I probably could have been better and things like that. So, but in terms of what I would like to see is we do fire drills, we do lockdown drills. Does the district do anything or have any plans to look at doing anything of the sort where they test the administration on what their response should be to a threat of this nature? You know, so that there are standards across the board. Does the district have any plans to communicate with other schools within the district on what the district's expectations are with regards to a situation like this? You know, when it exceeds just simple bullying and intimidation. You know, again, you know, I understand that, you know, rumors fly and, you know, one kid, you know, didn't trade his sandwich for an apple or a candy bar or something like that, and I'm going to beat you up, and that's one level. But when it comes to a situation of death threats and shooting threats, you know, I don't think it would do anything but benefit the district and the school administration. You know, I think of Ms. Clark and Dr. Comer, you know, had a better understanding of what the expectation was during that time. And, you know, again, we do fire drills, we do lockdown drills. Do we do drills or, you know, test, if you will, or audit how the administration will react in a situation of a threat, you know? And I'll be real honest with you, Dr. Rodnick, in that when I spoke with you, I didn't get a real comfortable feeling when I left that meeting that there was going to be the after action review, that there was going to be, you know, right, steps taken to take a look at that. And, you know, I think I'm a little disappointed that the other parents of the other victim parents weren't invited to the meeting. I don't know if they were or not, but it's my understanding that they weren't. But in that situation, getting their feedback is part of that after action review. You know, I'm grateful and very appreciative that I was invited, but I'm sure that they have other concerns that maybe I haven't looked at that may be beneficial to this process. You know, but like I told you when we did meet, I'm not here to work against you. You know, I'm not here to sue the school. I'm not here to sue the city or the city or the district. That's not my intention. I'm here to affect change as a community member and work with you to affect that change to better our schools and our district. That's my intention, and I just didn't feel like my voice was being heard.
Sure.
And
Well, and I apologize for that, and if I could just speak to a couple of the points. So when you say test, we do, there's a variety of things, of course, we drill. We do monthly fire drills, we do lockdown drills through the year, we do all those things. And after those events, we do after action reports. It's an opportunity, it's really a reflective set of questions for a team to go through. But we also do, not quarterly, twice a year, for instance, a tabletop exercise. That, you know, that is kind of a stress test. Here's a situation. Now take your team through it. And they are to submit an after action report on those things too, to demonstrate that they've gone through the process. We provide training. We did a threat assessment training with our assistant principals just a month ago to look at how do we analyze threats and do those things. So I like to think we do our best to inform and test. I think this would be an interesting scenario itself as a tabletop in the future. So I want you to know that. You know, and additionally, I hope I didn't come across curt or anything in our meeting. You know, when I spoke to the after action reports, you talked about a process, and I think what I tried to convey is, well, we've begun initially an informal process. That conversation started in this office the very next morning when I called, and Sergeant Wilson and Katie were here, and I'm like, what's going on? Let's start talking through this. And really, through those first 48 hours, some initial what took place. My direction to Katie then was to complete one the following week formally when our SRO had returned. Although he wasn't here, I wanted Officer Decker to be a participant in that process in terms of walking through this particular. We know what the scenario was. Now let's debrief. Let's go through this and identify some things that we did right and or wrong. So I think what I tried to convey in there, when I spoke to, is yeah, we do them, and we do them for a variety of reasons. So again, if I came across the wrong way, that was not at all my intention.
I think we were both a little emotionally charged, and I feel the same. So accept my apologies if I came across that way as well.
No problem. I appreciated you taking the time. Okay, I think I addressed a couple of the things you had there. I didn't jot those down. So,
and going along with what you're talking about in the training aspect, I can tell you, we also take that back from the police department working with the school district. Now, I have reiterated and briefed my squad on this particular incident, what happened, what you know, what went on, what we could improve on, and everything like that, so they can take that back to their schools and work with their administrations directly on things that, hey, this is what happened, this is what was done, this is what we can do better, you know, and review that. We also do, I'm involved in the tabletop exercises and what we call the district emergency response team, that we sit down and we've done everything from evacuation drills to reunification drills and everything else. We are also involved with, I've worked with the district now, this is the second time around where we've done active shooter training for all the schools and staff together. We I think it was 2-3 years ago, we went through every school in the district and we did a active shooter training with all the schools, with all the administrators and everything. And now after about, I think it was
last year. Max and I went together.
We are going back now and we're doing a review with it. So we do constantly train, and we do constantly try to prepare our, to work with our teams.
And I have no doubt that that's going on. And what my concern is, fire drills, lockdown drills, active shooter drills are all reactive measures. Okay, so we're reacting to an active shooter. You know, we're reacting to a possible threat around the school actively occurring. We're reacting to a potential fire. My concern is what changes are, and again, this is where I feel that the parent involvement is so important, because you're the school district, you're the school administrator, you guys are the law enforcement, so you guys represent the government, if you will. We're the community, right? We're the ones that can affect change to assist you guys, so I really want to look at, these shortcomings I feel really impacted the preemptive measures. And, we'll go back to the Florida. There was so many red flags that were missed, right? And preemptive measures that could have been taken to possibly, God knows if somebody wants to do something, they're going to do it, but that possibly could have been taken. And they weren't done. So I think that there's a real opportunity for us as a community to work with you guys as our school government to help you affect that change. If, Dr. Vinek, if you tell me that we couldn't stop Tino from coming back to school because there was this law on the books or there was this policy within the district, and, we as parents are the ones who can help be a voice to help affect that change. Okay, but, sitting behind closed doors, having those conversations behind closed doors does nothing more than really, for me as a parent, and I'm sure you guys as, parents, we don't have a voice and we can't help you affect that change. And that's really is my goal, is to affect the change so that we can make it better. We can make the processes better. We can give you guys the tools, or help give you guys the tools that you need, the change that you need to make things better.
Well, and I appreciate that, and the complexity of this when we speak of a specific student is, we want to be completely transparent, but there are federal regulations in terms of what we can share in terms of FERPA. But we do now, have the case law to support that in events of bullying or threat, that when we have victims, we can share the name of a student and when that student will return and provide that kind of safety and security. And when you talk about proactivism, I think you're absolutely right. All these protocols we've mentioned are after the fact. It's how you deal with when now we have a tragedy. What are the things we can do beforehand? And sometimes it's as simple as our superintendent says, it's about relationships and knowing your kids and knowing who's here, and the importance of SROs being in the classroom. This is how you begin to identify that particular child, that we see something's going on. It's difficult. I think it is about knowing your kids, though, and we certainly want to encourage that, that you see something, say something. Let us know if there's a peculiar behavior that we can help that child. That's how you get in front of it and provide the appropriate services or determine whether they pose a threat. You start working with the family. The irony with Florida is there has been over the years, I think, the way, I'm speaking kind of globally, but looking at these incidents of, and I want to be sensitive to school districts across our nation, of exclusion, isolation. Okay, they've been expelled, out of our hair. When what we're finding is now you've only provided an opportunity for that child to be in an unsupervised home, more time to do and plan things that are going to be heinous.
Yeah, I'm with you. So
now schools
100%.
are in a very difficult situation dealing with a community where we see all of a sudden the community members say, that kid's back in school? Well, actually, it might be better. And I'm not speaking to this incident, but understand globally, it might be better to work with that child in that manner, or make sure that we have the services being provided at home so there's monitoring of the family situation. So, I've been speaking kind of at the 30,000 foot level, but I appreciate exactly what you're saying, and your point is well taken. These are the things we're looking at.
And that's
was expelled and gone.
Right, and again, that's where again we as a community together need to look at those things. And like you said, just expelling a kid is not necessarily gonna help that kid. But does the district or the state have the tools or the resources necessary, maybe to put that kid in a different environment? And I'm not saying that, you know, reform school or whatever it is, but I don't have the answer. I'll be the first to admit I don't have the answer, but hopefully collectively, you know, somebody in our nation will come up with the answer. But those are the types of conversations that we need to have. And I don't think having those conversations behind closed doors benefits anybody. You know, so, you know, again, I'm really just advocating for, you know, that parental involvement, you know, in the after action portion, so the parents have an understanding of that, you know, things are being taken seriously. At no time during this process, I think it was with the exception of Ms. Clark, and I think you did say it at one point, but, you know, my initial conversations, did anybody say, Mr. Goodnow, we understand this is a big problem. Mr. Goodnow, we are going to look into this and get to the bottom of what happened. Mr. Goodnow, if we made mistakes, we're gonna fix them. Nobody said that. When I asked questions, people danced around the questions. And when, and you know, I'll call you out on this one. I had to ask you twice if there was gonna be an after-action review at a district level with the school to ensure these mistakes don't happen again. And you didn't give me, yes, Mr. Goodnow, we're gonna get to the bottom of it.
Okay, that's fair enough.
You know, so that
I think
that
we
increased.
started the process informally, and we have a method to do that formally. So,
Something to that effect, yes. But you know, my kid just got threatened to be shot and killed. Mr. Goodnow, I understand. We're gonna get to the bottom of it. One of the parents didn't even get a phone call till a week later. And those are the things that frustrates the community.
Well, we understand that. I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah, so, you know, and had I heard that in my first or second conversation, I probably wouldn't have been to the level that I have reached in my concern that the district and the school was gonna look into it and fix it, or at least make an attempt to fix it. And that was my biggest frustration in the whole process. It was the communication and nobody saying, we got this. You know, because when I go home to my son and I got to answer to him, and you know, you saw me out handing flyers because I need this community to get together. And if, God forbid, I didn't do everything that I could in my power to ensure that the district and the school was going to look at this, take a serious good look at the way this was handled, and fix some things, and God forbid some child got hurt or killed, especially my own, I would never forgive myself, ever. And that's the reason that I've taken the actions that I have to ensure that this process gets followed and looked at. So.
well, I know when we first spoke, I tried to assure you that as a father and parent myself of 3, absolutely. I have one in high school still. I understand that deep devotion that you want your kids to feel safe at school. And I tried to express it too, professionally. I agree. We're not going to have something happen on our watch. We can't do that to kids. We take it very, very seriously. And I'm sorry that wasn't expressed as clearly as it could have been to you.
Okay. And the other big concern that I had, and I've spoken about this with Ms. Clark at length, is Mr. Moses. I mean, he made 2 direct statements to my son, you know, that it was his fault. And then told him he's going to blame him for whatever he wants. And for a teacher to make those statements, in jest or not, that it just threatened to be killed, and then I have to listen to that as a parent, And it happened 3 times on 2 consecutive days. And even after I brought it to Ms. Clark's attention, then he makes the statement to my son that he's going to blame him for whatever he wants. And it shows me, as a parent, continued intimidation by a teacher, or at least a teacher that doesn't understand the seriousness of the situation.
And I'm going to speak to this one for you, Mr. Goodnow, that, and I cannot share all details, and I feel like it's a sickening tagline, but please know that I've worked with district and I have addressed that. So it is being taken care of.
Thank you.
I know you said you had another appointment. I know in our first conversations, and I'll share it again, this is, I feel like I've lived in this state of reflection and questioning myself and the things that we do here at Mountain Trail. And there is not a moment that goes by that I don't think of all the things that I can do as a mom, as a leader, you know, the level of care that I have for these kids in the school truly knows no bounds. And I'm really sorry that this whole situation has happened. I
appreciate that. And
I don't have words to explain.
And I understand that it's an awkward position that you were put in. I think, and I really want you to hear this as a leader in the district. I think Ms. Clark did what she could, given the circumstances. She wasn't here that day. I think had she been here that day, based on my experience with you, that this situation probably would have been handled a lot different. I think Dr. up to a lot of liability with the way that he speaks to parents and his decision making. So, you know, I'll leave it at that. I've said my piece. You know, I want to let this process play out. I appreciate you all inviting me and allowing me to give my feedback. And I hope you will seek the feedback from the other victim parents as well.
I'll mention as well, I actually thought about that on my way to work. I thought, gosh, I should have invited them, but I did feel like you and I had met, and I wanted to have that contact with you first. I had spoken to Mr. Reedy a few times this week. I did speak to Ms. Barron on Friday as well, reviewing that process. So I did take them through all of those things, Mr. Reedy a few times specifically, and Jill Barron as well.
Yeah, because they are not happy. So just heads up on that one. So, but unless there's anything else, I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, it's good to meet you. Good to see you again. Thank you.